Hello and welcome to another video on Spelljammer Academy, but this time it's Chapter 2, Trial by Fire. If you haven't seen my last video, I did one of the first orientation, and just basically, if the screen's a bit blurry for you, get your own free copy, it's on D&D Beyond, and read along. If you're going to DM this, hopefully we can prepare together. So, Spelljammer Academy, Trial by Fire. The introduction, again, 3 to 7 characters. You might have as players, and then picking up from last time, tensions are running high at the academy on the island of Nimbrel, thanks to a recent rash of thefts and an attack against the academy's founder, the Merciless. Excuse me. The academy's instructors have made it clear that it's business as usual for new cadets. The characters will be put to the test as they participate in a competitive series of illusory training exercises against another squad of cadets. The characters take charge of their own spelljamming ship, applying a magical simulation of wild space on a mission to seek out the wreckage of a ship lost in an asteroid cluster. So, three sections just as before, 3 scenarios as it were, and I think you could probably jump into it straight into part 2, but I don't know why on earth you would. So the adventure for part 1, pre-flight meal. We start in the breakfast hall, and that gives the same old bit of text about the academy, which we should know from the last one. To begin the adventure, you read or paraphrase the following. Today is the day. It's the official start of your academy training. Fresh from orientation, you and your crewmates are to report to Seirth Abazine is the Spelljammer training officer. Before you head out, though, your first stop is the Academy Refectory for a hearty breakfast. So on the cadet quarter level, the Refectory is a large communal dining hall with a patio area. It's well lit by a dozen blue glowing orbs attached by bronze-coloured rods to the ceiling. There's an L-shaped counter to the northwest, excuse me, covered with small tools and contraptions and alchemical tubes and containers. Behind that counter is a door that reads staff only. Now I don't know what's behind that door, unless it's on the map, but I don't think it comes up in this text at all. Breakfast of Champions, the characters arrive. There's a stocky gif, which is this hippo person, named Petty Officer Winston Reback, as it says in the sidebar, is behind the counter doing what he does best, preparing meals for the hungry cadets. When the characters arrive, the refectory holds a dozen other cadets, so you can use these little stats if you need to get any statistics for a fight or anything. They're all lined up behind the counter or seated at tables. So each character receives a bowl containing a smoky concoction of either deep-fried meats or beans, held together with sticky starches. The cook, Reback, has never given his signature dish a name, but most cadets call it gunpowder chowder. So you can have that as a bit of overheard talking between NPCs. And then, in addition to the characters, another group of cadets are receiving their first training task today. So there's talk that the training officers might combine the two groups. Again, it's all hearsay. The simulation deck is a magical marvel equipped with 3 chambers that basically VR. Spelljammer Academy has been plagued with thefts. In addition, there's a realm space chart gone missing. One of the thefts saw Rebeck's quarters robbed of a custom pistol, and this gif loudly voices his frustration around that event if any characters talk about the thefts within earshot of him. More troubling than the thefts is the recent attack on the Academy founder, the Merciless, which was the climax of the last one. Other cadets suspect the character's involvement, but don't know the details. So, Petty Officer Reback, muscular, makes the food, he runs a respectable galley, he's a believer in the 4 main basic food groups: bacon, beans, whiskey and lard. Raucous and brash and gives bear hugs. Grey skin, coated with a light sheen of sweat. And then the second NPC of note here. By the time the characters have picked up their meals, the only table with enough space for all of them is occupied by Mikan Haverstance, Mikan is very unconfident. He's not confident. Mikan constantly worries about whether he has the right skills to graduate from the academy. When his nose isn't buried in a technical manual, he's scribbling mathematical and arcane equations in a battered pocket notebook he always keeps on him. Mikan has light olive skin, dark brown eyes, short dishevelled black hair, framing a round face. He wears the same uniform as everybody else. Okay, so his head is buried in a book and he notices the characters, invites them to sit down if they don't do so himself. So he strikes up a conversation. And he expresses anxiety about the upcoming training exercises, having already convinced himself he doesn't have what it takes to be a recruit. Yeah, he's not at all confident. And the characters get a chance to boost his confidence, and this might affect the crew's final score at the end of the adventure, because there's a scoring mechanism. So, a character can boost his confidence with a DC 12 persuasion check, or they can start a conversation about spelljamming to take his mind off it with an arcana check of also 12, or the characters can speak to his other teammates who he's kind of away from and ask them to talk about their own insecurities, making him feel better and bolstering his spirits. So, that is in the breakfast hall. After breakfast, the characters travel to the main spelljamming simulation deck, where they're briefed upon this next exercise. It has them travel through the wild space in the VR thing and pit them in a race against the clock, as they must outperform the other band of cadets in the same situation. So there's two officers waiting. There's Saerth and the bosun Tato from the other adventure, the Spelljammer Corps training officer. Characters who played through the first adventure met both officers. Mission briefing. You arrive at the simulations deck at the same time as another team of cadets, all of you gathering in the main hall where today's training officers, Saerth Abazine and Bosun Tato, stand waiting. A few members of the other squad murmur excitedly, but a glare from Bosun Tato as she chews her cigar quiets them. Saerth Abazine scans the congregation with silver eyes. Their stern gaze shifts to a wide grin. Well, this is going to be fun. So Tato here steps forward to welcome the cadets and explains what the exercise is. The exercise is also a friendly competition between the two cadets, and they will score points, as we discussed. The same old text box describing Tato there. Assigning roles. Okay. So, a team can have multiple shipmates, as in soldiers who don't do spells, but you'll need a captain, and that captain is one with who wants to do the orders to the people. So you can only have one captain realistically. One spelljammer, which is absolutely mandatory, but you don't have to have a captain. But yeah, the spelljammer is the magic user of the team who wants to control the ship. Everybody else is shipmates, but you can make one of those shipmates a captain. And using a spelljammer helm requires a keen mind and magical talent, so you have to be able to cast spells. A crew relies on the captain to be intuitive, and so you need to have a high wisdom or charisma. The assignment role. After a long pull on a cigar, Bosun Tato surveys the assembled crews. Each crew is to navigate their ship through a debris field on the outskirts of Colliar, a sodding big gas giant. There you're to salvage the captain's logbook from the wreckage of an abandoned ship, then return to your starting point with your own ship intact. Tato levels a steely eye and says with a glare, intact, not first. Get the mission done well and not quick. So here we have Saerth Abazine with silvery eyes. Despite their excellent, extravagant showboating, Saerth Abazine remains as mysterious as the Isle of Nimbrel from which they hail. Although relatively inexperienced in comparison to some of the other instructors, Saerth is an experienced spelljammer. Their eyes shimmer like pools of quicksilver, allowing them to see magical auras. Saerth's quick wit and sharp tongue provide them with an inexhaustible supply of jabs and quips, accompanied to great effect by their natural talent with illusory magic. The Sayer's white skin is so pale as to be almost translucent, and their blonde hair is worn in a fashionable, immaculate, manicured pompadour. So, yeah, just really sleek. I'm thinking Star-Lord, maybe as a reference. Simulation chambers. Each simulation chamber is, a big domed circle. Its walls have arcane runes on. We covered this in the first one. Sayeth accompanies the characters to the chamber where Mr. Blip, the Academy's auto-gnome quartermaster, is preparing the physical aspects of the simulation. Let's go to Mr. Blip. Here is Mr. Blip. Auto-gnome quartermaster. I know his eyes change colour. Mr. Blip is an odd but well-loved member of the Academy. During a ship attack some years ago, the Autonome's creator was killed and his memories were lost. With no purpose to speak of, Mr. Blip wandered aimlessly and eventually encountered Bosun Tato in her travels. The Hadose invited the Autonome to Spelljammer Academy, and he's been there ever since. Mr. Blip is a walking encyclopedia of knowledge on all subjects related to spelljamming. Chances are, if you have a question, he's got a dozen different answers for it, and usually doesn't stop opining until he's asked to be quiet. His quarters are an absolute mess, featuring half a dozen tables piled high with tomes, curiosities, and devices of unknown purpose. So you can be inventive, just create some really weird items if they were to go looking. Mr. Blip wears a smart-looking leather apron with a load of tools tucked in. The other article of clothing he wears is a black felt bowler cap, and his eyes change colour depending on the mood. Green if he's inquisitive, blue when determined. I mean, you don't have to remember these. You just make your own up. His eyes change with different moods. So, where were we? Mr. Blip. His eyes shift to blue as he hurries over to the table and says everything's ready to go. Mr. Blip gives the characters 2 pages of parchment, a wild space map that shows the route to the destination, and a crude sketch of the logbook they have to retrieve. Sayeth steps back from the platform, holds their palms outward, and begins an incantation. The sigils scrawled along the walls and floor glow brightly, intensifying as the training officers weave their powerful illusion. Good luck, cadets, Sayeth says, and don't be afraid. Though these illusions are realistic thanks to my arcane prowess, they are just that, illusions. Blue-white lines form around you, etching the shape of a ship deck around the platform upon which you stand. The room then melts away amid an explosion of colours, textures and sounds that place you on the deck of a ship that is shaped like a gigantic hammerhead shark. The ship is situated in the skydock atop Spelljammer Academy. Scudding clouds fill the sky above you. Now, to reiterate what I said last video, with the NPCs, I'd have a little card saying the key things like his eyes change with moods, or, you know, he's happy, he's excited, he talks in this manner, that manner. Just do the key things, just so you've got a quick reference. Okay, so, the rules of the simulation chamber is that everything should be played as if 100% real. So they cannot sense they are in an illusion, nor can they cast a spell which make it obvious that it is an illusion. Damage is as normal. You've got 0 hit points. You fall unconscious, but really you're just outside of the simulation, and you have a level of exhaustion. First level of exhaustion being disadvantage on ability checks. When it ends, characters regain all lost hit points, spell slots, because they were never really there. Taking off. Once the illusion begins, the crew must take off and ascend into wild space. This requires the characters in the Spelljammer role to succeed on a DC 13 ability check. I've got such a tickly nose. Using their spellcasting ability. If the check succeeds, the characters use the Spelljamming helm to propel the ship forward. If they fail it, the second attempt just happens straight away. The island of Nimbrel disappears quickly beneath your ship, which passes through clouds until the spectacular void of wild space comes into view. During this space trip, you can describe, you know, the colours of the nebula and however you decide to do it, really. But just given that flying into space or through light speed or whatever you want. If half or more of the characters succeed on the check below, then they fail. Oh, they pass. Otherwise, they fail the attempt. But everything happens on a second attempt. That's all you need to learn here. So the captain, plotting a course, needs to make either survival or persuasion. The shipmates can make athletics or acrobatics. So you're doing group checks basically of the shipmates. If you've got 5 shipmates, for example, if you are playing a 7-player game, you want the majority to pass out of the 5, and then the captain has to pass and the Spelljammer has to pass. It's a DC 12, and like I say, you can talk about them failing the first time, but then maybe they fail the first time and they turn the map upside down and they realise, oh yeah, I don't know. You can't quite get control of the ship, but then you do manage to press the right buttons. It's just automatically second time. The character ship accelerates to spelljamming speed through wild space, and after a minute or so, the ship returns to normal speed. It comes out of hyperspeed or light speed or whatever you want to call it. Then suddenly a school of giant eels swim past the ship. So describe that. Each eel discharging a bolt of lightning as it zips by. The ship is caught in the eel's electrical storm, which starts one or more fires on the deck. So then they have to put out the fires, deal with that situation. After they are done, the characters make a DC 13 ability check to put them out. Again, use the same sort of statistics to make sure everyone's flying and knows where they're going from here. Then an asteroid cluster happens. They realise that where they need to go is within an asteroid field to get to the ship, which the logbook is on. So any navigating asteroid fields, again, steering, the captain saying where to go, the shipmates pulling on the instruments, the Spelljammer managing to put the directions from the captain into good use. Now, if they fail on dodging the asteroids, the ship is lightly grazed, and that becomes important later because when they're going into they can take damage, and when they're coming out from the asteroid field they can heavily damage the ship. That's all that is. Once you pass through the asteroid cluster, the characters reach the wreckage of a flying fish ship, torn apart by the debris. The longer the characters take to locate and claim the captain's book, the more difficult the task becomes. Initiative rolls are not necessary, but track how many rounds of checks it takes for the characters to get there. So yeah, everyone in the round gets a turn to do a roll, and then it's round 2, everyone gets, to do successfully navigate to the ship however you want. The wreckage is surrounded by a cloud of silvery dust and reduces visibility, so it's in a fog of debris, tiny debris. After pulling alongside the wreck, you have to make wisdom perception checks of 16 to find the logbook, because it's flying among the debris around the captain's cabin, all of which bobs in the derelict's gravity plane. The characters repeat the check until the logbook is spotted. So you can just do a search and find, going down a corridor, coming to locked doors. If they fail the check, they have to go back and find another way through a window that's been smashed open. Just make them hunt for this book. And the next more difficult task is obtaining the book while the debris rests in the ship's gravity plane. It's not exactly solid ground, so when you stand on the floor might not actually be attached to something and it starts to sort of go down. So then the book sort of stays where it is as you go down, you're going further away from it. Let them come up with their own way of solving the problem. Maybe they use Mage Hand, or tie a rope around a character and fling the character forward. Assign a DC 13 check to any roll that you use. Once the logbook, of course all these DCs are totally up to you. Once the logbook is safely on board, the characters can exist to the asteroid cluster, and as I say, they could damage the ship again. Okay, we've got a picture here of a Githyanki on a wild space battle. As your ship steers clear of the asteroids, another ship comes in. Its sleek frame is painted in a wild shade of pink, is designed to resemble an immense squid. Starlight reflects off the ship's hull, illuminating 2 turret-mounted ballistas, rotating slowly to face your ship. The ship is old but reliable. A ship crewed by Githyanki pirates. Having already set their sights on the derelict, the Githyanki don't take kindly to the characters jumping their claim. So we have a battle. The Hammerhead ship The following stats are for the character's training ship and appear in handout 1. AC of 15, 400 hit points. Flies at 35 foot. The ballista, AC 15, because he can attack the weapons themselves. Plus 6 to hit. Average of 16 damage, or you can roll 3d10s. 2 mangonels. I haven't looked at what a mangonel is, but it must be some sort of ranged attack. 5 people. It takes 2 actions to load a mangonel, 2 actions to aim it, and 1 to fire it, which is why you have the 5 people all taking care of these things in one go. All that crew is to do that one round of blasting. And you can basically ram the ship with a plus 8, and it does 88 bludgeoning damage to the other ship. That's quite exciting, that's quite good. Back. So, yeah, the Hammerhead ship. Then there's the Squid ship. The following stats are for the pirate ship. Again, 15, less health, less speed, and I think we have in one part of this book, oh yeah, piercing ram. Similar stats, 3 crew, 5 crew for that gun, and a nice picture. But there's also a good Squid ship map included. So if the guys your players want to board, you can sort of tell them where they are and make up some, maybe prepare some good finds, some weapons, some money, a bit of armour. You know, things that the pirates might have taken themselves. Because there's nothing worse than going into a room searching and coming out with nothing. It's just boring. So the battle begins. You roll initiative. And you also roll for... Oh, okay. Why are we not adding dex? Neither roll takes any modifiers. Okay, we're doing a variant rule. You simply roll d20s, and that's the order of fighting. The ship is 50 feet away. So it's basically, you could dash, I suppose. You could use an action to dash, which means it can't then attack. So, yeah, it's quite well spaced, that. Now, 2 evil shadows. These are former crew members of the flying ship, what they've taken. The shadow statistics, yes. But they're not necessarily shadows. These are former crew members, and they attack from amid the debris of the asteroid field. So they are not really involved, but roll a d20 for the initiative order, again with no modifier. So there's kind of 3 teams here. There's your guys, there's the Githyanki, and there's 2 shadows who will attack both sides. Alternative scenarios. Yeah, some characters might want to resort to other options than just ship to ship. Such as, certain spells can be used to damage an enemy ship or hamper its crew. But the Spelljammer helm of both you and the Githyanki cannot be targeted. They are too well protected inside the ship. So to say I target the pilot with some sort of psychic thing, they can't be, it's shielded. Boarding. The characters might want to get upside and jump on the ship. That's all cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. 1 or more characters aboard the Githyanki ship. That ship makes only 1 ballista attack each round. The rest of the crew basically jump onto the people coming on board. They defend the ship. But which are resistant to psychic damage? So right. So yeah, try as psychic damage Githyanki. They have resistance. The encounter ends when the enemy is reduced to 100 hit points or fewer, and it runs away, or the enemy takes 2 critical hits. They disappear. The character's ship moves more than 100 feet away from the enemy's ship, at which point, you see, if you're running away, I suppose, or try to go past the character, they stop attacking the characters. The character's ship is reduced to 0. The training exercise just ends because you've been killed. But not for real. Help! Your ship slows, marking the unexpected presence of something else in the vicinity. It takes just a moment to spot another Hammerhead ship in the distance. The other ship is severely damaged and adrift. Every few seconds, bands of electricity ripple out from the centre of its hull, dealing further damage to the ship. This is Merc's ship. Merc? Mikan. And all that other team of your academy cadets. So this is your rivals, and they're having a worse time than you. So, this is where the characters can approach the other ship, and Mikan waves for help. The characters can choose to leave the team to their fate and just win the competition, or they can help them to the finishing line. Basically, whether you've got good or bad characters, they can discuss, hey, we should help them, teammates, you know, or sod it, we want to win. Then it turns out that the simulation chambers at the Academy have been sabotaged, using Seirth's illusions to erupt with a backlash of energy. The illusion around you ends in a wave of silvery blue light, and you stand within the simulation chamber where your training exercises began. Magical energy ripples with a turbulent cloud around you, reaching out to touch the rune-scribed walls, then exploding outwards as bolts of lightning, sending Seirth and Tato and others flying to the ground. Each character makes a 13 dex save and takes either 13 standard damage or 3d8 rolled, or half as much on a successful save. Most of the backlash caused by the sabotage was directed at Seirth and Bosun Tato, where the two were supervising the training exercises. Both are badly injured. In addition to tending to their wounds, the characters can head and find Mikan and their group of cadets. If the characters spoke and encouraged Mikan, or they inspired the cadets to open up to him, they discover Mikan's actions saved. If you bolster his confidence, Mikan actually saves two of his teammates from the worst of the magic. He's a hero. If the characters just didn't even care, then two of their cadets are critically wounded. Unless they receive magical healing in 3 rounds, they die. Alternatively, a character can do a wisdom medicine check, which stabilises them, meaning they're no longer dying and are out of the bad fire. Finding clues. Characters can help the training officers examine the simulation chamber for signs of sabotage. Investigation DC 12 or wisdom perception check notices an odd metallic plate crudely jammed in one of the walls of one of the chambers. A search to another chamber reveals a similar jagged sigil. A detect magic spell reveals powerful magic emanating from these objects. If the characters don't go looking, Master Blip shouts that he's discovered these things. Once Seirth and Bosun Tato are informed, they examine the plate and deduce its sabotage. Bosun Tato scowls, chomping down on her cigar. She points to the sigil as she looks to Seirth Abazine. That looked familiar to you? Seirth's quicksilver eyes scan the object coldly. Volkath, I should have suspected. It appears that the Mercane's grudge against Mert has become a vendetta. The old wolf must be told. So, intrigue. Ending the adventure. Okay, if the characters earn 6 points or more, which we'll look at how it's awarded in a second, they successfully complete the exercise for winning the competition against the other squad. Each character is awarded 100 gold pieces. If the character earns fewer than 6 points, again we'll look at the point scoring in a second, they fail. Bosun Tato commends them for their efforts regardless, and tells them you'll have a chance to repeat the exercise, although they don't, because that's not how the mission is written. Appendix A. So, did they plot a course on their first roll? 1 point. Did they mitigate the damage on their first attempt? 1 point. Did they enter the asteroid cluster without damage? Did they exit the asteroid cluster without damage? 1 point. Defeating or outrunning enemy ships is a whopping 4. Stopping to assist the other cadets at the end is 2 points. Points required for success is 6. And that's it. The characters advance to 3rd level upon completing the adventure. You have some stats in better form here. The shadows, for example. The shadows are fairly meaty. You've got your ships we looked at earlier. Yeah, everything you need. Again, I would probably write out a card for the ships, and every card you make should probably have a room for you to top up the hit points if there's a fight. If something's got 10 hit points, for example, I used to always do 10 hit points, or they're taken 2, that goes down to 8. Somebody suggested writing down they've got 10 hit points, but starting your damage tokens counting upwards, so, or 2 damage, 2 and 2, that's 4 damage, counting addition-wise up to their full hit health is easier than subtracting from 134 down to 0. So count upwards. That's quite useful information. Other than that, that's it. We're done. I think these are great little adventures, and although I'm not running them, I really like them. So, hope that helped. Check out my other videos. If anything helped you at all, please subscribe. I am chasing the 100 subscribers mark at this point. I've had my first videos get 1,000 views. These are all tiny milestones, but so exciting for me. I'd like to get some money put into this damn laptop, which is pushed to its very ends. Thanks for watching. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. See you in the future, and keep rolling.